2 of the big 3 down. Now there's just 1 to go. Before I begin this discussion on my thoughts on Bleach as a whole, with the entire series now under my belt, please do me a favor, leave your own thoughts on the series in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure you hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Now, let's get into it. What's up, guys? I got Pencil here, and here we are to break down my thoughts on Bleach, or aka just Bleach, like the entire series. I am still going to do the little breakdown videos on it, but I want to do those off a reread because I wanted to like analyze it with full context of the entire series there, so it was more me than my just like, you know, flat out, oh, I think this is cool, oh, I think this isn't cool. This will be the more video where I'm talking about things on just like a purely superficial factor, what I thought about in the story as a whole, what I think about the character, stuff like that. That's what all this is going to be for. I'll be going into more specific stuff and how I think it develops into more specific stuff later on in separate videos covering each individual little arc. But this is Bleach on a whole. What do I think about it? I think it's pretty good. I think it's a very solid read. I can definitely see why this became one of the big 3. It's a cult classic, stuff like that. I get it, and I can see why so many people are excited for things like the I can see why people are so excited for things like the 1,000-year Blood War arc to be animated. Because to be fair, it is one of the best arcs in the series, to a point. But we'll get into that when we cover the 1,000-year Blood War arc specifically. In general, what do I think about the story? I think it's a pretty interesting story. I'm not necessarily like, the interesting thing is that we definitely have a big, solid, meaty case of reactive protagonist, because notably Ichigo's only goal in the narrative is to protect those he cares about, at least from my initial interpretation of my first reading of 686. Hold on, let me just check real quick. I should just pause the recording right now and not be live typing, but you know, it's just for the style of it. For 686.5 chapters, Ichigo never really has like a solid goal. At first, it's kind of to avenge his mother, but mainly that gets dropped the moment Ishin gets rid of that thing, and then mostly it's just Ichigo protecting those he cares about. And that's not a bad motivation or anything, but to be fair, it's weird to say it's nowhere near as iconic, but like Naruto's dream of becoming a Hokage is something you know from chapter 1, and it just goes. Luffy wants to be the Pirate King. I haven't read a single chapter of One Piece. I may have watched 2 minutes of a One Piece episode. Actually, I think I've read chapter 1000 with absolutely no context, just because it popped out and was a big thing on Viz. But other than that, like, I have no idea about One Piece, but I know for a fact Luffy's goal is to become the Pirate King and find the One Piece. Like, those are just things I know. And to be fair, it's in the same, but even then, like, I was going to say Dragon Ball's in sort of the same league because there is no clear goal. Goku's goal is become the mightiest, and, well, not necessarily the mightiest. It's a goal of constant self-improvement. You know that. And that's still a proactive thing to do. Meanwhile, Ichigo trains in response to threats. Ichigo's constantly, like, reacting. He's very rarely proactive. And that's not bad. That's, like, a realistic thing to happen. But it's what makes Ichigo and the whole story as a whole feel very, like, what's the next big threat? What's going to cause our characters to fight again? What's going on? What's blah, blah, blah. It's not very much our main character is going to go do things. Our main character is going to go do that well. And like other series. And to be fair, that's why I think I'll like other stories as a whole more than Bleach. Because while Bleach's world is very well interconnected, I'm going to get into the world in a little bit. I think in terms of simple progression, in terms of like following our main character having a purpose, or a goal to reach at the end that we're like constantly looking for, like at the start of every chapter we know blah blah blah, this is what we're looking for. Yes, it does exist, and Ichigo's want to protect his family and loved ones, but at the same time it's not the most galvanizing thing for the narrative on a whole. And I think that's both a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because it allows for any threat to come out, and regardless of what it is, Ichigo has reason to go and do it because it threatens his friends and family, and he cares about those people, obviously. So he's going to go stop the big bad threat no matter what, because it's kind of his job, quite literally, as a Soul Reaper.と at the same time, it's sort of a bad thing because it's kind of like whatever happens. Like, we gotta wait for something to happen to one of Ichigo's loved ones, or them to be threatened, for Ichigo to really have any real investment or incentive in the narrative itself, rather than a vice versa thing. Like, we know Luffy or Naruto have investment in their respective goals, or Goku has like those 3 in particular have a direct goal that will always have obstacles in it. It sort of makes them automatically invested, because if someone gets in Luffy's way, they're getting in the way of his main goal. If someone gets in Naruto's way, they're getting in the way of his main goal. If someone's getting Goku's way, to be fair, they're part of the main goal. So that's the thing. Meanwhile, every single thing Like, Ichigo's goal is for everyone to be happy and protected, and obviously he's going to do the protecting. But that means if nothing were to be happening, there's nothing that Ichigo will be doing. That's the only thing about the story that feels a little bit off, but it's not like I'm not going to blame Kubo for that. That's still a solid motivation. It's honestly one of the more realistic motivations out of any of the big three or any, like, some of the most popular manga I've read. Let's be completely real. However, speaking of manga I've read, all those mangas have worlds. And what do I think about Bleach's world? I think Bleach's world honestly has... See, I haven't read One Piece yet. Like I said, I have no idea about One Piece, so I'm not going to say anything like that. I know one of One Piece's main things that the world is insane, so I'm not going to speak on that. But in terms of, like, interest behind it, I'd say Bleach is up there for one of my favorites. Like, it's not on the level... Like, notably, the Shinobi world, at least to me, until, like, a whole bunch of extra stuff was added into it, necessarily wasn't that interesting to me. So Bleach is better than that in my mind. By simply having the ideas of Hollows and Soul Reapers, and you get Quincy's, like, the early series does a very good job of introducing you to literally every main threat that we'll get in the narrative, because Thousand Year Blood War arc was Quincy's, the whole Soul Society arc was Soul Reapers, and then the whole Aizen arc was a mix of Soul Reapers and Arankars, which ended up being Hollows. So, like, everything in the world leads to more questions about itself, and every major thing within the world becomes a major threat. And I think that's cool. I do think the world is one of the most well built in terms of what can come out of it, was already established early on. So nothing necessarily feels insane except for the powers that are tied to certain beings. Like, notably, from my understanding of the Hollows, they're just big crazy monsters that occasionally at random have insane powers. Like, that's like that. And then the Quincy's are just... they're demons because of Ewok. But Ewok... the amount of time... the amount of times I've just been randomly saying Ewok... like... I don't know. I've been saying it at complete random, and I know it's getting on some of the people I commonly act with. And I'll just randomly be like, Ewok... the Almighty. But... in terms of that, I do really like the world. The world is intriguing. Like, the moment I got introduced to the concept of the Soul Reapers, I was straight up like, that's intriguing. There's got to be more to that, though. And, like, to be fair, there's some things I'm still not entirely sure about. Like, are Soul Reapers immortal? But they age. But are they immortal? Do they just have slowed lifespans? Like, Yamamoto was around for over 1,000 years. What caused him to age? Because, like, notably during the 10-year time skip, none of our characters really age. Like, I'm talking about the very end time skip too. Like, Toshiro looks the exact same, but he's supposedly still a kid. Like, when do Soul Reapers stop growing? Is there, like, a point where are they just, like, long lived and can die? But then again, we know that souls or Konpaku can die of old age. Some things are confusing. Once again, I consumed this series in like a month, and it's, I think, literally what, like 686 chapters. Hold on, let me just do some quick math. 686 divided by 52. Yeah, that's about 13 years worth of content I consumed in about 156 at the time that I should have. So it's understandable if I missed something. That's why I'm doing a reread specifically, because I know I like blazed through the series so fast and I had so many thoughts on it, but I didn't want to start saying things without knowledge of what would happen later, because I didn't want to sound dumb. Because Bleach has been over for a while. I know there's the whole possibility of the Underworld arc that's possibly going to drop in the manga. I read the one shot. Ironically, there are two ironic things. Like, I knew a lot about Bleach before I read it. Like, one of the main reasons I was excited for Bleach was Kenpachi, was like all the stuff. I was really excited for the 1,000 Year Blood War because everyone was hyping it up. There's so many things. It seemed like a very hacked verse in completely different ways. I was excited to read all that. So I knew all of that front too. But when the Bleach one shot came out on Viz, it was before I had even read chapter 1 of the series. And thusly, when I read through it, I was just confused. So going back and rereading it with context now is super interesting. I know I don't recommend that for anyone else. Like, don't start with the last chapter of a series and then go back and read the whole series. But for some reason, it interested me. And now I'm happy that I did do it, just because it was a weird experience. But in terms of the world itself, very interesting. There are tons of unanswered questions in my mind, especially with the whole one-shot thing. But we'll see about all that. Things could get spicy. I'm not gonna lie to you. Things could get wicked, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, the world, not necessarily one of my favorites, because I really love some other worlds. I'm trying to think. I do love the Dragon Ball world. I do love the Bagi world. I do actually really like the Full Metal Alchemist world. Man, that's weird. I also like the Dr. Stone world, but that's just our world. But it's the context that's like there are worlds that I think in terms of their basic structure I'm more interested in, but that's mainly due to like character stuff and stuff like that compared to Bleach. Meanwhile, Bleach as a whole, just the biology of the world, like all the different aspects of it, the world itself is actually very interesting. Like you have the Garganta, the different Hueco Mundo. I don't know why. See, whenever I speak Spanish, I slip into a slightly different voice, and it's completely reflexive at this point. That's just how I pronounce things. But in terms of the world itself, very interesting. I actually like it. Let's talk about. Do I talk about characters as a whole, or talk about heroes and villains? I'll talk about protagonists and antagonists first. I think the protagonists are actually pretty good, though. A common issue I heard about Bleach before I ever read it, before I ever even opened a page of the manga, was the idea that it is kind of Ichigo, the show. And to be fair, I don't think that's 100% true. There are threats definitely not taken out by Ichigo, but I feel like in the anime community, we call it waiting for Goku. There's a lot of waiting for Goku in Bleach, especially in the final arc. And I think it's fine. It's fine. But like, sometimes it's like a little bit too blatant. Like in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, where everyone's just like, don't worry, when Ichigo is here, the whole thing will change. Ichigo. Like, you don't have faith in yourselves. You just gotta rely on Ichigo. I know he's the main character, right? But in terms of that, it's not necessarily my thing in particular. Y'all know I don't necessarily like MC worship anyway. It's why I actually am a big fan of Orient, despite the MC not being too prominent in it, just because I enjoy a more balanced cast rather than just, hold on, we'll take care of all the side characters while our main character comes and deals with the main villain. That's the only way these series can work. I know. It's shonen. I shouldn't be shocked about that. But at the same time, I'm not shocked. I'm just disappointed. But putting that aside, putting the whole little protagonist, main character slop up on the side, I do actually really enjoy a lot of the protagonists. I actually do like Uryu is one of my favorites. I know Uryu isn't a fan favorite, but I actually really, really like him just because of his struggles. Ichigo, as much as I don't like that the whole series is just gobbling him up, I think he's a great main character. He's not, admittedly, I'm going to say it, I do enjoy Naruto. Actually, no, I need to think about that more. I'm good because I've reread Naruto more times and thus paid more attention to a lot of the little character quirks in Naruto. So before I give any definitive statement on who I like more as an MC, I will hold that Aladdin's a better MC than both of them. No, I'm kidding. But I will hold that I'm not exactly sure about Ichigo, but he's a really good character. I do like him. Orihime isn't as bad as I thought she'd be, because I heard she had Sakura syndrome, and Sakura syndrome puts a bad image in my head. But to be fair, she does have a degree of it. But at the same time, I feel like she has some great character moments on her own, especially in the early series, that really make me appreciate her character more than I thought I would. So I'll give her that. Chad? It hurts to see Chad. That's all I'm going to say. But in terms of, let's see, other protagonists, I really liked Yamamoto. However, I think he was underutilized. He was cool, but he didn't, like, how do I put this? Like, he was cool, but in my mind, he was just like a hyped up Kenpachi. No, that's a weird way to put it. I don't know. I had such high, I guess that's me. That's on me. Because I had such high, insane in the membrane hopes for Yamamoto that I probably should have said there's a spoiler at the beginning. I'm gonna edit that at the beginning of the video. I just realized I'm spoiling like stuff in the manga. I know a lot of Bleach fans are anime only, so I probably should have left the spoiler, but I'll edit at the beginning of the video. But regardless of that, like Yamamoto, I had really high hopes for the dude, but he didn't. And to be fair, he has his cool moments and he has this great presence about him, but he didn't live anywhere near up to my expectations. Like I was expecting an Escanor tier character, didn't really get much of that. But characters like Kenpachi I really enjoyed. Mainly just, y'all know I like Kenpachi. He's a smoke demon. But I feel like he's an interesting character in relation to his power. He very much may be a basis for Escanor in some ways. But I'm to only talk about like respective to the power and how it relates to the body and how other characters view him as this like there's Kenpachi is an interesting character for how he is viewed by other characters, while at the same time being an interesting character viewed in a vacuum by himself, which I think is a very hard thing to do. I'm gonna give Kubo credit on that one. Let me see. Who are the other like big bad protagonists that I really want to cover? Renji? Y'all need to stop bullying Renji. He ain't do that much, I'll admit. Roar, Zabimaru! I'm so glad I have context for that now. Now they can now confidently say I know what that is. I'm so happy I have context for that, because the amount of times I've said Roar, Zabimaru! Or no, I don't even think it's Roar. Is it Roar? I think it is Roar. I just see that just shows how little Renji did. But still, in terms of like, I've said that line so many times before I even got a whiff of Bleach. Now I can actually say it in confidence knowing what that thing means. I'm proud of me. Now I can say, Roar, Zamimaru! And actually it makes sense in context of what I know. But then on top of that, I do think, I mean, Rukia actually isn't that... I think Rukia has more of the Sakura problem than in Orihime. But I really like Rukia in the 1,000-Year Blood War. You know, to be fair, actually, now I think about it, it's just that Rukia, except for 1,000-Year Blood War, doesn't get many, like, fights that put her on a same, like, rule of cool standing, especially compared to her brother. Like, Byakuya is really, really cool, too. I'm definitely going to do a character analysis video on him. He's a GOAT. But other, like, side fan favorites, is it Ichimaru? I'm bad. Oh no, that's Gin. What am I thinking of? The assistant captain of Company 11. Well, Kenpachi's assistant captain. Hold on. What's his name? I'll be right back. He's not the assistant captain. I'm an idiot. He's a lieutenant. But Ikaku Marurame, I actually really, really like him. Just because, like, he's a smoke demon who tries. And I really appreciate that. I really like his character for the weirdest reason. He's probably in his own video, too. But I think that's all the protagonists I really want to hit. Because, like, other ones, I mean, I like the other captains, too. Like, Toshiro, I get the hype. Yo, Toshiro looked drippy. Oh, he had so much sauce in the 1,000-Year Blood War. That man turned up as a zombie. Oh, fire. Talk about some drip. I wish I had, not adult Toshiro, but when he showed up in that coat, like that winter coat, he looked so saucy. But when he was in the Stern Ritter outfit, oh, that man was saucy. But, yeah, that's I'm sorry. I don't know why I did that. I mean, no, I got to talk about him under Antagonist. Speaking of, let's just hop to Antagonist right now. I'll cover more in depth, like my thoughts on Protagonists in the respective arcs when I get to them. But in terms of Antagonists, like no lie, Grimjow is one of my favorites, like, ever. I don't know what Grimjow does for me. I think it's a mix of his saucy design, his really, like, it's not a complex power set. It's literally just every other Rancor power set, period, point blank. I don't even think he has any hacks, but still, his saucy design, his great fights, his whole character motivation, his whole backstory. Like, in terms of an antagonist, in terms of a person that I was like, you kind of nice. Like, Grimjow, you do pretty darn good. I guess Nell. Did I cover Nell? Nell was never an antagonist. She was alright. But in terms of Grimjow, great antagonist. But I guess I can't talk about antagonists without talking about one of the big bads, Tosin. No, I'm kidding. But in terms of actual, like, meaty antagonists, I gotta talk about Aizen. What do I think about Aizen? He was no, I'm kidding. Aizen was actually really, really good. Like, Aizen was a character who I was hyped up for. Like, there were three main characters that I was really, like, before I read Bleach, I expected great things out of. And those characters were Captain General Yamamoto, Kenpachi Zaraki, and Aizen. Oh, and I suppose but he was the lesser one. He like was recently put into my mind as I started reading the manga. But I'm talking about like pre-opening up a page of the manga. Actually, I watched that Seth video. But like pre-opening up the manga, like those three were the big three of the ones I was hyped for. The Captain General, the captain of the third company, I'm pretty sure, and the captain of the 11th company. Those were my three. They were my big three, if you will. So when I got to it, And I saw Aizen's reveal. Notably, Aizen is also one of the sauciest characters I've ever seen. The drip, even in the 1,000-Year Blood War with the eye patch, whoo, saucy. But no, in actuality, Aizen was so good for what he brought to the narrative in terms of character suffering while suffering himself as a game. Like, I don't want to go too much into Aizen. Just know I think he's really, really good. Is he Madara level? We'll talk about that. Well, I'm going to do a Madara versus Aizen, but in terms of character analysis and how we got so much to talk about when we get to Aizen. But speaking of other big antagonists, he was a mixed antagonist for me in terms of like, as a whole, like, I love his concept. I love his backstory. I love his design. I love his hypothetical voice. Is that voice that I keep hearing that, oh, the almighty, like, is that actually his voice? I don't think that hasn't been animated yet. Has there been a teaser that came out that included his voice? I should have done research on that before I record this video. But it's like everything about Yuhawk. I gotta say it properly every single time. He's super interesting, but in like a roundabout way, like in a spin the clock, reverse Matrix kind of way. Like, I appreciate him, but there's something that's simultaneously missing about him, and I'm not sure what it is. I think it was the end battle. But I'll cover that another time. When I get to the 1,000-Year Blood War, I'll definitely go. I think the 1,000-Year Blood War is gonna have multiple videos on it. Now that I think about it, because that arc is a lot. For like 186 chapters, that arc is beefy. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot. Okay, I'll cover that when I cover that. But yeah, I think the antagonists in Bleach pretty darn good. Do they stand up to how do I feel like they stand to other antagonists in, like, especially like Naruto, Dragon Ball? I do think they are, like, there's no offense to Dragon Ball, but like hands down, I think at like writing wise, heck, even Ukiyora's cool too. I didn't talk about him that much, mainly because he definitely, like, Ukiyora, in a similar sense to Grimmjow, but in a lesser sense, definitely automatically, like, the moment I saw him, and to be fair, I knew about the Vassal Lord, I was subscribed to Clyde and Chuck way before I ever read Bleach. I've watched so much Bleach content before I actually bothered reading it. So, like, Ukiyora was a character I knew about, but from the moment I started reading him, he felt like a mini boss. Grimmjow felt like his own independent character, but just because of like how Ukiyora was written, which is no fault of Kubo, by the way, he felt like an intermediary. Like, at that point where he ended, his story had to end. Like, I don't feel like there was much more you could have done. I mean, there's technically way more things you could have done with him, like his own journey of individuality and stuff like that. But like, sub-boss material is what Ukiyora felt like. Meanwhile, Grimmjow from RIP felt like a character who could have stuck around, joined the main crew, would have been an amazing addition. Why he got done dirty in the 1,000-Year Blood War, I'll never know. But in terms of that, I think those antagonists are pretty darn good. Better than Dragon Ball, definitively. I don't know. I really like Pain. Whoa, no, not in that way. Not in that way. Y'all freaks, calm down. But I really like Nagato. I also really like Madara. And I also really like Obito. Don't attack me. But I also really, really like Hidan. No, I'm kidding. But in terms of Naruto villains, like, Naruto villains be slapping. Not gonna lie. They're all better than Kaguya, though. They're all better than Kaguya. Heck, that Hollow from Chapter 1 was better than Kaguya. But in terms of that, I think that's covered. Let's see, I covered story, villains, protagonists, general thoughts. What else am I missing? Oh, the power system. I actually really, really like Reiatsu and the entire, like, everything else that built off of it. The Quincy's felt a little bit weird, but I suppose that comes from Yuhawk himself. Yuhawk. Is it Yuha? Is it Yuhawk? Or is it Yuhawk? Because I've heard both pronunciations. Tell me in the comments section down below. But I'm going to keep calling him Yuhawk every time I try to. But the Quincy's were the only ones that felt a little bit weird, but, like, the Hollows and the Arankar specifically just being masses of just Reiatsu that were just varied in power, really, really cool to me. I appreciated it. The Resurrection, the Bankai system, the individuality of all the Bankai, really, really cool. All that stuff was really, really solid. I'll just straight up admit. It was a system that I felt stretched itself in all the reasonable way it could while staying mostly logical. There are some things Reiatsu did where I was like, whoa, but at the same time, there are other times I was like, Ryatsu can just kill you if it's too much. I appreciate that. Nice work, Kubo. Like, the whole spiritual pressure crushing system, really, really cool. The different, like I said, the entire Zanpakuto toe system, amazing. I do actually really, really like the wrong cars in Hueco Mundo. Let me see. Some of this verse is just super weirdly hacks. Like, I complete random to like Ichigo isn't that much of a hacks character, but you have people like Aizen, you got people like Yuhoppo, you got people like Byakuya Kuchiki. I don't know. I don't know why my brain lags over. They're essentially the Quincy's. Like, all the Quincy's were weirdly hacks, but other than that, yeah, super solid. I think that's enough of me like giving my general thoughts on the series. What would I give the series as a whole? I feel like this is a weird rating to give. This is why I'm gonna like. This is pre-reread. Me just going from chapter to chapter. I would give this series a solid 8 out of 10. It had a lot of stuff in it that I really, really liked, but I do believe the ending fumbled the bag a little bit. I do believe there are parts in it that were... I didn't talk about the Fullbringers at all. That's for good reason. We'll talk about them. But in terms of, like, overall, there were some parts where it did feel like the story was dragging a little bit. There were some parts where I was like, where are we going here? And obviously the ending... I'm pretty sure there's a common sentiment too, but the ending did feel a little bit weird. But, and that's honestly in both cases, I'm being completely honest, like the ending to the first major arc and then the ending to the story itself felt a little bit weird. So, hopefully if Kubo extends it, we got a better ending. That's what I'm going to say. But those are my thoughts. Please tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Also, if you don't mind helping your boy out, support me on Patreon. Now, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and this is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.